The night of the engagement should be special, but to me it started with a dry blow. My place at the table was occupied by my brother's bride. "This is not your place," my mother's eyes said while I turned to leave. It was then that Grandma's firm voice cut the air. "In fact, this house belongs to Kira." My mother's fork fell on the plate with a snap. It was my turn to act. "My name is Kira. I'm 27 years old and I'm a pharmaceutical in a small drugstore near the subway in Kazan's heart. It is not a glamorous career, but it pays the bills and is still left for a modest apartment 5 minutes walk from work. I walk there every day. Economy in transportation is guaranteed economy. My family, however, has always been a mined ground. My parents and older brother Matvey, 31, form a trio that seems to leave a successful catalogue. He works in the central office of a large private bank, with a consistent salary, while I'm just the daughter who didn't work out. Since college, the difference has become an abyss. Matvey graduated, got a job on the bench, moved to a luxury apartment by the river, and started dating Sophia, the family girl, as my parents love to stress. I, on the other hand, followed in the pharmacy, alone in my corner, invisible to their eyes. For my family, I was the personified failure. In any meeting, the script was repeated. "Our Matvey works on the bench, a brilliant career," say my mother, radiant. "Not like Kira," he added, as if I wasn't there. My father entered the dance, and Sophia, what a charming girl, while Kira. The guests writhing, trying to change the subject, but they didn't care. After all, nothing was more important than celebrating the victories of the favorite son. It hurt. Of course it hurt. But for them, it was just Kira doing drama. When I tried to talk, I heard, "We're just proud of Matvey." Over time, I learned to avoid those dinners, making excuses. It was better to disappear than withstand another round of comparisons. But even from afar, I saw everything. The photos of Matvey and Sophia on the profiles of the family, smiling, perfect. "The best moments are with the family," they wrote, as if I didn't exist. Only one person never made me feel left, my grandmother, Valentina Petrovna, or simply Grandma Valia. She lived in a wooden house with balcony and swing, 20 minutes by bus from me. In the backyard, an orchard with tomatoes, dill and grouse. While everyone ignored my dreams, she believed in me. When I entered the pharmacy college and my parents said they could not afford 2 children, it was she who silently filed the documents and even lent money for the tuition. "One day you will see that it was worth it," he said as we had samovar tea with raspberry jam. She understood what it was like to fight without recognition. I told how to sew in a studio to help my grandfather finish the course, as I joined each coin to buy the first home. It never let me feel less. When I commented on another Matvey promotion or the diamond ring he gave Sophia, she just smiled, glad for them. "And you, my granddaughter? How was your week?" Only she asked for my life, my pharmacy, my small apartment. Only she remembered my birthday without having to remind us on social networks. With her, I felt someone. So when the phone rang that Tuesday and saw my mother's name, I almost hung up. He was exhausted after the duty and had no mood for another sermon on the glory of Matvey. But something made me answer. "Kira, I have wonderful news," she said, vibrant. "Matvey asked Sophia in marriage." My heart sank, but I forced a smile in my voice. "How great, Mother. They must be happy." "Of course. Let's have an engagement dinner in 2 weeks, here at home. Her parents will come. Her father is vice president of BA. Matvey, so it's a very important event." The subliminal message was clear: you have to come, through your brother's image. There was no room for refusal. "Of course I will," I said, already feeling the family weight on my chest. "Great." I sent the details on Telegram. "And Kira, dress decently. It's not any meeting." She hung up before I could say anything else. I stayed there, with my cell phone in my hand, realizing that even when they needed me, it wasn't for me, it was for the show. In the following weeks, I arseped between going or inventing an excuse. A part of me wanted to disappear, avoid another humiliation. But deep down I loved my brother. As much as my parents put him in a pedestal, he was my blood. 2 days before the event, the phone rang again. This time, it was Matvey. "Hi, Kira," he said, with a lower voice than usual. "I know the mother has already called you about the engagement." "Call," I confirmed. "Congratulations. Sophia looks really cool." "Thank you. Look, I wanted to invite you personally. I know how parents have been, but it's important to me that you are there. I want my sister by my side that day." Those words caught me by surprise. How long ago no one called me sister so naturally? "Of course I will," I said, feeling a knot in my throat. "Thank you, Kira. Seriously, it means a lot." After the connection, a strip of hope opened. Perhaps it was the chance of changing everything. Perhaps, for the first time, my parents behaved. Maybe I could really rejoice at my brother. The big day has come. I chose a dark blue dress, elegant without drawing a lot of attention. I didn't want to overshadow Sophia, but I didn't want to hear my mother's comments about my appearance. I arrived at my parents' house, around Kazan, around 5 in the afternoon. Even before entering, I heard laughs and lively voices. I took a deep breath and knocked on the door. My father opened with a wide, almost forced smile. "Kira, finally. Enter, between." The room was full, relatives, family friends, and clearly Sophia's guests impeccably dressed, with sparkling glasses and polished conversations. I saw Matvey and Sophia in the corner, she displaying the ring to a group of admirers. He looked like genuinely happy, something I hadn't seen for years. I didn't have time to approach. My mother appeared beside me like a hurricane. "It's time. Come, I'll introduce her to Sophia's parents." Before I could protest, she dragged me to an elegant couple by the fireplace. The man, tall and imposing in an expensive suit, and the woman, with a dress that cost more than my rent. "Vladimir Igorevich, Marina Lvovna, this is our daughter Kira," announced my mother, radiantly proud. "Kira, these are Sophia's parents." The man reached out with a warm smile. "What a pleasure to finally meet her. Sophia told us so much of her. How is it?" "Oh, yes, her little pharmacia." I thanked the compliance, trying not to demonstrate the discomfort with the diminutive. "The pleasure is mine. Sophia makes Matvey very happy." Some empty words about work, about the neighborhood, were exchanged, nothing substantial. But to my surprise they looked genuinely friendly. It was then that, by the corner of my eye, I spotted Grandma Valia in his favorite armchair near the window. He wore his best dress, dark green, and, dressed for special occasions, hair carefully arrested in a flawless bun. Her eyes met mine, and with a slight nod and an accomplice flashing, she called me. Apologizing to Vladimir Igorevich and Marina Lvovna with an polite smile, I approached the grandmother. "There is my girl," said Grandma Valia, opening her arms to get involved in a tight hug. "You're stunning, granddaughter." "Thank you, Grandma." "You are beautiful," I said, smelling the familiar smell of your perfume, a mixture of lavender and something that only existed in it. I wanted to stay there forever. Going to his stories, laughing at his jokes, but duty called me. He needed to circulate, greet the other guests. As soon as I got up, but I felt my mother's hand on my shoulder, her fingers clutching with an urgency that spinned me the spine. "Kira," she whispered in my ear, her voice tense like a thread about to break. "I need you to do something for me." "What?" I asked, turning with frown. "You need to leave. Now." The words fell like knives. "What do you mean, Mom? I just arrived." She didn't flash. "Please invent anything and go. Without fuss." I was paralyzed. What the hell was going on? Before I could react, Grandma Valia interrupted our nap with a sweet but firm voice. "Kira, honey, where is it going?" The party barely started. My mother's face burned in flushing. "Ah, is that?" I remembered an urgent commitment, she stammered, clearly improvising. Grandma Valia arched an eyebrow, skeptical. "And what could be more important than your child's engagement?" I had no answer. My mother looked at me with a silent despair, but I had no idea why that absurd theater. "In fact, Grandma, I don't need to go anywhere," I said, sitting back to his side. "I'm here." She squeezed my hand in approval while my defeated mother walked away with a forced smile. Minutes later, my father announced that dinner was served. I followed the crowd to the dining room, decorated with meticulously tidy flowers and places, courtesy of the hours my mother must have spent on Pinterest. I looked for my name, hoping to find him somewhere in the middle of the table, as usual. But when the guests started sitting, something was wrong. Matvey occupied the chair beside me. Grandma Valia, on the other. And Sophia. Sophia stood confused, with a glass of sparkling wine in her hand, looking around as if he had lost something. That's when I understood. My mother had tried to expel me because that was planned. There was no place for me. I was invited just to fulfill formalities with Sophia's parents, and then they said I would disappear, freeing the space for the bride to sit next to the groom. My mother approached, speaking low, but not enough. Kira, it seems like there was a mistake with places. You could get out a little. We need to release the place to Sophia. A silence toppled over the table. Everyone pretended not to hear, but each syllable echoed like a shot. I looked at Matvey. He avoided my gaze, but leaned over to murmur, his voice loaded with poorly disguised guilt. Without scene, okay only. The humiliation burned my faces. All those eyes on me. Sophia, embarrassed, in a tight dress and the nervous smile. My parents, acting like I was an intruder that had spoiled everything. I didn't make a scene. I took my bag from the back of my chair and got up. Sure. Sorry for the discomfort. Sophia slid to my place before I finished the sentence. The conversations resumed, as if nothing had happened. I walked toward the exit, my chest tight, my eyes burning with tears that refused to pour. It was then that Grandma Valia's voice cut the air like a whip. Kira, where are you going? Come back and feel. Everyone shut up again. I turned around. My parents seemed about to faint. My father tried to soften. Mom, it's okay. Kira understands. It was just a mess with the places. Confusion. Grandma Valia's voice rose, clear and sharp. You invite your daughter to their brother's engagement and then expel her that someone else takes their place? This is no confusion. This is a choice. My mother blushed. Mom, please. We just wanted the night to be special for Matvey and Sophia. Then they should have planned including the whole family, said Grandma Valia, without blinking. Sophia seemed to want to disappear on the floor. His parents exchanged horrified glances, clearly not prepared for that. And family show. I was still stopped by the door, divided between the desire to escape and the morbid fascination of seeing my grandmother, who had never interfered before, defending me like no one had ever done. And then, with a smile that preceded bombs, Grandma Valia let out, in fact, talking to family. This house has always been mine. I just allowed you to live here in the last 30 years, Alex, because you are my son and I wanted to help. But she took a dramatic pause, the eyes shining. Last month, I changed it. My father frowned. Mother, we always knew that the house was yours. We just think that when it was time, you would pass it to us. They were wrong, she said, Serena. 3 weeks ago, I signed the donation. Everything is already registered. And guess what turned to me, and my heart stopped. The new owner is Kira. The impact was physical. My parents seemed to punch. My father choked, clinging to the glass of water. My mother paled like a ghost. You can't do it with us, my father managed to babble. Grandma Valia shrugged. I already did it. I took Grandmother Valia to her house, an old building smelling of fresh bread and aged wood. She disappeared for a few minutes and returned with a thick, yellowish envelope on the edges, as if she had been secrets for decades. Take. He extended him through the car window, his eyes shining with the malice of those who have just won a chess match without moving a piece. Copies of everything. Legal, official. Tvoj gift. I looked at the envelope as if he could explode. My heart was hitting so hard that it hurt. And now? What do I do? Whatever you want. She shrugged, as if talking about time. Your home, your rules. I drove back to my apartment, with the envelope burning a hole in the passenger seat. The phone vibrated non-stop on the console, but ignored it. When I finally checked, there were 17 called lost. 30-2 messages on Telegram. All of the same referrals. Kira, call immediately, we need to talk, sorry for dinner, was a misunderstanding. I turned off the device. The envelope tore with a dry sound like a verdict being proclaimed. Inside, in black on white, the deed of my parents' property with my name stamped as the only owner. Kira Alexeyevna. I didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the scene repeat himself. The gaping guests, Vladimir Igorevich and Marina Lvovna watching the collapse of the family facade, Grandmother Valia lifting her fragile voice like an axe against years of hypocrisy. At 7 in the morning, someone started knocking on the door with an urgency that sounded like panic. I peered through the magical eye, my pale parents, with their faces marked by a night as insane as mine. Kira, we need to talk, my mother said even before I opened the door. Yesterday it was a terrible misunderstanding, my father added, as if the words could undo what his eyes betrayed the night before. A misunderstanding? I repeated, crossing his arms. With places at the table. We told the seats wrong, my mother stammered, as if that explained the way they looked at me when I asked to leave. As if justifying years of veiled comparisons, laughs when my plate was served last, with embarrassing silences when Matvey received praise for things I did only better. They said it wrong, I repeated, savoring the absurd. Serious? Is that the excuse? We would never do that on purpose. My father raised his hands, as if he swore to an imaginary Bible. You are our daughter. We love you. Funny how their love became visible only after scripture changed hands. What's interesting, he said, taking the envelope from the kitchen table. Because yesterday, when Grandmother Valia announced that the house was mine, you didn't look so loving. I opened the deed before them, as a judge showing the sentence. His eyes widened. That's illegal, my mother murmured, but her voice failed. 100% cool. 100% mine. I closed the document with a snap. I thought a lot that night. And I decided, you have two options. They looked at each other, a spark of hope lighting on their exhausted faces. Or signs a rental contract and pay 70,000 rubles a month, I continued, observing hope turning into horror, or packing and getting out. I will find other tenants. 70,000? My father exploded, red with anger. This is extortion. Actually, it's below the market, I said, sliding the phone on the table with the screen open on the real estate site. Homes like this in your neighborhood rent for 90,000. At least. My mother started to cry. They were not tears of regret. They were tears of those who finally understand that the game has changed and they no longer have the reins. Kira, that's cruel, she sobbed. We are your family. And Tsar, I agreed, collecting the envelope. And families are not like garbage for decades. They do not humiliate, do not exclude, do not make their daughter feel an uncomfortable accessory in their own parties. We apologize. My father hit his hand on the table, making the cutlery tremble. Excuses don't return the years they treated me like a burden, he said, calm down. But 70,000 a month. This can teach you how to value what you have. They tried to argue for more 20 minutes. I didn't give a millimeter. They left without saying goodbye.